Hey there, this is Emily and Bernie from Third Place Works, where we help co-working professionals with tailored cohorts and one-on-one consulting. Our proven frameworks can help you get focused, stay accountable, and see real results. Want to learn more? Check out the show notes for all the details on how to join us and take your co-working business to the next level.
Hello folks, it is another swashbuckling. This is the only place in the world I say that word swashbuckling, but the Swashbuckling Co-working Values podcast, and all the way from the infamous Old Street Roundabout is Chauntelle. So Chauntelle, what are you known for and what would you like to be known for?
Hey, hi, I'm Chauntelle. The new sales and project manager at Townsquare Islington in Old Street. What am I known for? I'm known for gardening, funny enough. So I'm also the barefoot planter. And then I'm also known for diversity inclusion consulting. So that's what I'm known for.
So when I met you on this podcast, because Tony interviewed you, and we'll put a link in the show notes, but I thought I hadn't heard you. I thought you were like, oh, Tony's got one of his cool friends from meetup.com in New York, and they've been doing all this cool stuff. And then here you are in London, which was ace. So listen, we're gonna talk together, folks, about the whole event thing today, because before we came on, we were like chatting about how to get people into events and people dropping off and free versus paid and planning for the next year and everything like that. And I wouldn't say I'm an expert, but I've just got a lot of experience, because since 2008, I really have run over 1,000 like events, workshop, meetups, get-togethers, hangouts and stuff like that. And that's a lot of that was done on meetup.com, which I used to love. And so many people, including co-working, I've met on there. But you meet a lot of people, and I know you do lots of different things in different places, from gardening to tech meetups and things like that. So what are you thinking about that now?
Yeah, so I think December is such a weird year. A weird time of the year, because people are just kind of like ready to kind of just slap their laptop shut and just get into the new year spirit. So I've been finding that we're doing like a lot of free events, a part of our social value for the local council that we have at Townsquare Islington, and it's been between like the weather, transport issues, and just people not feeling like coming to events. So we do a lot of free events, and the registration is usually kind of high, but the drop up rate is like even higher. So yeah, I'm struggling to kind of think about like the year ahead and thinking, okay, like we're going to do events, when to do them. So I've done a bit of pushback and being like, maybe we wait till like the kind of final weeks of January to actually have events. So it's kind of hard. Yeah, I'm trying to think of the year ahead, but mindful of what to do planning in advance.
I think it's always changing.
Yeah.
And in like COVID really affected stuff, and then people didn't want to come out to events, and there was this whole kind of shake up of how we do things. And the online event thing I think people are more, they were zoomed out, and now they're like just bored of doing online events, and they want to do that in-person thing. And I think, in my experience, people need way more notice than they ever used to. And then just from things I read in the event industry, people need to have a way longer lead time. So we're telling everyone to come to the Workspace Design Show, link in the show notes, folks, at the end of February. And we've been talking about that all day, all year, whatever it is. And then people will register for that in the last, I know, probably people who already have decided to come won't actually register for it until February.
Yeah.
And the other thing, talking like my own experience and then talking to other people, is people need to know why they're coming to the event.
Yeah.
Which sounds really obvious, but I think before you used to be able to go like, oh, Bernie and Chauntelle are having drinks, let's go. And it's like, why am I going there? It's like, really, it costs a lot to get on the public transport is more expensive than ever. Budgets are more tighter. Even if you're doing a free event, there's still like a cost of actually like turning up and being there.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's what we don't think about. And I've definitely recently tried to do a lot more outreach for local partners and local community initiatives in terms of like speaking to the council, seeing who's in the area, tapping into their audience, because like if they can walk here, even better. If they can cycle here, better. Bus, better. So I think it's trying to get that local reach, because before we were doing Eventbrite, and we're getting people that like someone came from Hertfordshire, and I was like, oh, that's far. And just thinking about like that travel cost, because even myself, when I travel to work, I'm like, oh, that's like £6 gone already, So definitely mindful of that, and just trying to find ways to get that more local reach, and just leveraging who we know in the area and who we don't know in the area, and getting them to advocate on our behalf. So yeah, the past like few months has been kind of like sending emails, getting people that we know to refer us to people. Yeah, and I'm going to do a bit of like volunteering just to kind of get my foot in the door of like people knowing who I am. But yeah, I think it takes a bit of time to make those relationships. So it's going to take a bit of work to just build that momentum. But the idea behind it is that at Townsquare Islington, we have a startup club, and it's basically a free business support program that anyone can come to, whether they're and start a new business or just have an idea. And if we found that like recently the tentative kind of signups have been decent, but then the turnout has been quite low. So my kind of idea has been to like find local organizations or partners that can kind of share, just to share with their network, and kind of creating cohorts based on that. So whether it's like the job center or like a local community center, or just like sharing flyers with like like local concierges of apartments, getting the word out in that way. So yeah, it's a lot of work we've got to do on our end just to kind of build that momentum. But it's been quite hard. It's been really hard.
I think that is like it is grafting that, and I remember. Do you know Space 4, which is just up the road from you?
Yeah.
So about 2018, we went to. They'd only been open a little while, and we went to this how to run a local community co-working space thing there, and people who I'd never seen in my life had come from all over the country. It was run in collaboration with Stir to Action, which is an online magazine, and I'll put a link in the show notes to that. And Stephanie taught this program with Irene. And one of the exercises, we're all like, oh yeah, we're all about community. Yeah, we really busted it. Yeah, community is really important. And then they said, so now for the next hour, we want you to go downstairs to Funthill Row, which is, do you know that in by Finsbury Park Tube? It's like a whole street of sari shops and restaurants and computer shops and things like this.
No, I've been there yet. I need to go for a walk and look around a bit more.
You need to go downstairs
Yeah.
and explain to people in the street and in the shops what co-working was. And all of us, even though we were like gun-ho community building advocates, were like, I'm not doing that. And basically it got a little bit awkward in the room. And it's like, well, if you want to do that, they didn't force us to do it, but if you're so, this is what you need to do to build community. You have to go and talk to people that aren't in your, social subset. And it was me and my friend went to the cafe and ended up talking to the cafe owner and ended up talking to people in the cafe. But we only ended up talking to the people in the cafe because we kind of got pushed into a conversation by the cafe owner. So we achieved the thing, but the actual talking to someone outside of our domain was terrifying. And the other thing is like that's really important work. And there's people who don't know what a co-working space is. So there's a whole public education piece there. And then I just always believe that people, and I'm sure you go along with this, but you're allowed not to, because people will look at the co-working space as they walk past those glass doors and go, that's where business people are, you
Yeah.
know, or like there's no one the same color skin as me in there. So that must be where, you know, all the white dudes go to work on their Facebook startup things. You know, it's like making it, making it, is it accessible? I don't know, making it so people feel they can knock on the door and say, can I come and work in here is a big mystical step.
Yeah, and I think so. Like, I mean, not to like self promote too much, but I'm gonna self promote. So the way that Town
That's why
Square is,
I asked you here. You know.
the way Town Square Islington works. So you know, like there's a lot of developments happening in London and just the UK as a whole. And one of the commitments that developers have to do is they have to like allocate like 10% of their development to the council. And so a part of that is like the council realised that in Old Street in particular, we have so many co-working spaces, so many offices, but those people that are like maybe not from the highest income bracket can't always afford it, but also don't feel like they want to even knock on the door. So the idea is that we're part of this affordable workspace scheme with Islington Council. And so our prices are very affordable. And then we also have this bursary scheme with Lift Futures. So they recommend about I think 4 people per year to use our space for free. And like the idea is that once they're in the space, they just develop their business to be able eventually to basically pay for the space, like their desk. So a lot of our things is like, as much as we have to make sure that we make sure space is available for people, it's also just like building that trust because I mean, it's building trust, but also changing the perspective of affordability because I think people sometimes think affordable is cheap and that's not what I want to create in terms of people's mindset. Like affordable can be cutesy, you know? So I think it's just making sure that when people come in, they realize that like the affordable doesn't mean that everything will be cheap. So I make sure that in the kitchen, the snacks are fully stocked, the coffee is tasty. And even when we're doing events, I try my best to like ensure that there's always food there and just people having that connection over like just every little meal. And then even like when we're here as well, just like kind of like introducing people in the kitchen, talking to them. So I think it's just like creating that environment where people feel like it's not just a desk and they can actually make friendships and connections. Because I feel like a lot of people are probably like freelancers or solo entrepreneurs and they don't have that time to just like speak to people. So I try to create that environment here. And I think one thing I didn't mention before, like in the intro, is that another thing that I'm known for is community building. So I love that you mentioned, like when you're given a task to actually go out and speak to people, it's quite daunting. But I think one thing I think about in London is like community management, community building has always been very grassroots in London. And so it is the community centres, it is the churches or the places of worship. And that requires people literally like going outside with flyers or speaking to people on the streets. And I think like we need to get back into that spirit as as co-working professionals because we're very kind of easy to like happy to just like send emails or create an Eventbrite, but actually going out on the street and looking a bit maybe a bit silly, we're quite scared to do that. So I think I'm trying to embrace my inner extrovert a bit more next year. By going on the street and just like sharing flyers and talk to people because you just never know who you meet.
It is terrifying talking to people who are like when I remember like pretty much all of the 90s I worked in bars, restaurants and nightclubs, and then for a long time I worked for this event company, and one day I'd be working in a private bank in the director's dining room overlooking St. Paul's, and the next day I'd be managing the queue at Madame Tussauds. And it was really interesting meeting so many different people. But when you're in a position, you can sort of, just talk to people. But
Yeah.
when you're just walking around and, hi, I'm Bernie, I'm Chauntelle, I'm stopping you in the street, they're going to think you're going to, trying to, what is it, signing, can you, oh, I'd like to stop. Have you got a minute? I'd like to sign you up can you just donate £1 a week to this charity? It is really intimidating.
Yeah. And I think especially in London we've got a culture where we don't like to talk to people. So we always feel like someone's up to something, like a scam, So we have a lack of trust. But I think it's like context is very key. It's very key. So when I look out the window for Townsquare Islington, I always see people walking their dogs. and I had this thing, and I'm gonna make sure I do it by next year. So hold me accountable, Bernie. But I want to do like sometimes it's funny, but like a dog walking meetup, where I just invite random people to come meet us up, like meet up with us, and just have like maybe tea and coffee and like walk their dogs. And it's, the idea behind that is that the co-working space is available. People don't know we exist, but we do a lot of events. And if I can kind of do a partnership around, so looking for partners and sponsors, by the way, if I can do a partnership maybe like with like the local dogs trust company, and just like, so it's creating awareness for like a local charity, but also making people realize that we exist, and also getting people that are local together in a shared interest, which is dog walking. So I'm trying to do little kind of like a guerrilla marketing in the future like that, just to kind of let people know that we're here. And also just tapping into like local behavior. So if people are walking their dogs at like at lunchtime, it means that they must work from home. And we've had like a lot of people that are local that have like now seen our new signage, because I've been pushing for signage for like since I started. And they literally walk by like, oh, like what's the space about? And they walk in, and like, they do a tour, or they do like a trial with us. So I think it's just trying to like be more visible by just like pushing events. But yeah, even with events, yeah, it's been hard because we're quite a small team. So it's like having managing the daily responsibilities of like managing the hub, but also like promoting the events, and then also like just being present for the events. So I did a lot of information there, but I think it's all kind of intertwined, because I feel like when you have a co-working space job, there's so many moving parts, and so each day is very different, and you can't just be like, I'm thinking about just this one thing. Sometimes you've got like 10 things in your mind at the same time. So it's like balancing it all.
All of that, definitely.
Yeah.
The it's a really, managing a space, because you kind of a member. You're always like, you're like a member, and juggling it, and a facilities manager, and a marketer, and changing the toilet roll kind of thing. There's like
Yeah.
so many different things going on at the same time. I'm so glad you said, as you started to talk about the dog walking thing, I was hoping you were going to say that, because we, like, when we moved here into Vigo,
Mhm.
I would go running and I'd meet people and wave at other runners. And then
Nice.
we look after our friend's dog, Biscuit. And I've met more people like outside our social circle by walking Biscuit around.
Oh, cute.
And I've been, how we were talking about how it's terrifying talking to other people.
Yeah.
Like, I don't speak very good Spanish, so I learned more Spanish and met more people walking around with a dog than
Nice.
other things. I think that's a genius idea.
Yeah. And I think it's just like a in-person icebreaker. Like people love a dog, like especially in London, people love dogs. So like if you can have that kind of like that very kind of approachable, kind of like, I don't know what to call it, but yeah, approachable tool, then it helps a lot.
What, and children in the park as well.
Yeah,
I met
yeah.
when our son was first born. Opposite his nursery was a park, and we just like rock out of nursery, especially in the summer, and go to the park. And there's all these ways that normally involve a dog or a child, that you get to meet people in your local area. And the more people you know in the local area, the more, I know, at home you feel, and that sense of community helps bring crime levels down and everything like that. There's a lot around that. What other have you got, like, one more pro tip we can end on? From
Ooh.
how to, if you think about all the in, outreach. I want a better word than outreach,
Mm.
like engagement. They're such marketing terms, aren't they? That you've done, particularly around. Can you say a bit about the gardening thing, because that is such a warm, gooey community thing.
Yeah, so I think it's two parts. So, in Townsquare Islington, I've got volunteer hours. So I've been speaking to like a local community centre about helping them with their garden, and then the Berkeley Planter, which is my business. Um, I have a residency in Dagenham, which is like East London. So I do like a lot of community based projects on like weekends, and then what I've been trying to do here is like merging the two, like my day job with my like side business. So last week, we had like a money and wellness workshop, and the person that ran that, presented like a really great like presentation. And I was like, okay, I'm going to present my presentation about like just how I started out my business. And then we did like a very, very quick 10-minute garden workshop and planting bulbs for spring. So I think it's just like, whereas in that, a lot of the events we do is very like business support, career development. And I sigh a little bit because I'm like, there's so much more that we can do. And so I've been pushing to do a lot more. But I also think like the kind of physical thing of like something very activity based, which is like, you don't have to use your brain too much, and you can just like use your hands or whatever you have available to you. So I'm trying to think of ways that we can kind of decompress a bit more, because months like January, it's very like, it's a new year, it's new me, but also people have been burnt out from the year before, and they're kind of easing into the new year. So I want to kind of like bring my barefoot planter vibes to Town Square a bit more. Whether it's like in our event space or like in a local community center, just kind of letting people know that they can bring nature indoors and then also go out into nature. And I remember like a few weeks ago, someone walked by because they were taking their child to nursery, and they booked a tour with us. And then they mentioned, oh, by the way, like they're a trustee of like a local park, which has a forest school. So I was like, oh my gosh, like just finding ways to like, I don't know,
Wow.
yeah, like just the connections are really wild. But yeah, find a way to do that. And then we have King's Trust next door as well that have like a green fund slash as a sustainability initiative. So hopefully collaborate with them on that and just like find ways to help their young people get into like just maybe green jobs, green skills. So yeah, I think it's interesting to have a full-time job, but also realize that within your full-time job you can bring your passions into the workplace. And I think I'm just trying to put my stamp on Town Square, because it's like Islington is a very beautiful place, but I think people don't really see the nature side of it because they only see that the grey buildings. So it's like letting locals know, especially in where our courtyard is, that we're here and we do more than just business support, and we do more than career development. Like we look at the people and like just like their needs, and also just like finding ways to connect with them through activity. So I will say, like with gardening, it's not always actually about the gardening. It's about just having space where people can be together, over a bit of like tea and coffee and snacks, and then meeting their neighbours through an activity. So yeah, I wanted to kind of make sure we do more of that.
We used to go to a forest school in Organically. Do you know that?
No, what's that?
It's near. It's sort of between Walthamstow and Gants Hill, just
Okay.
that kind of thing. And we it was just really good fun. I keep on meaning to go back there and see how the tree we planted like 8 years ago is going. But and then in what maybe prompted me to say that is a lot of it was volunteer. So
Yeah.
people would go there and spend some time and connect and everything like this. And then in a greenhouse, they had this cafe, and some cafes try to be all kind of like cool and mismatched. And this really was. People just brought in cups from home. So like every cup was different and every plate was different, and they made everything was organically made there. A lot of it was made from produce in the whole nursery.
Yeah.
And you'd sit in this greenhouse having a cup of tea or coffee, and it was amazing.
I love that. That sounds so peaceful.
It was brilliant. I really enjoyed it. So, where can we find you as Barefoot Planter and Townsquare Islington and all those things? We could put links in the show notes, but say them all out loud and the best place for people to connect with you.
Oh, you're testing me now. So the barefootplanter.com, and then just the Barefoot Planter on Instagram, and then Town Square, the Town Square. Oh gosh, let me make sure I get that right.
Just Google Townsquare Islington.
Yeah, I'm like, oh yeah, just Google Town Square Islington, and then it'll pop up.
And when does the startup club for Islington residents? When does the startup club start in January?
So the first one is postponed, so I'm going to put a new date out. So to be confirmed, but yeah, it should be like at the end of the month next year. So in January, maybe mid-month. Which also is funny because I didn't follow my own tip with like like planning way in advance. But yeah, we had to just postpone it because I think the first week of January, no one's going to show up to the event. So I was like, let me make that decision now to just postpone it, and yeah, kind of do like
I'm
an
not leaving
outreach.
my house until at least like the 8th
Yeah,
of...
like I'm back at work on the 2nd, and I'm like, my brain is just warming up. So yeah, I want to push back a bit and like the end of the month, hopefully. So I will keep everyone posted through Eventbrite.
Ace, thank you very much for your time and attention today, ladies and gentlemen. And if you go to all our delicious show notes, there's links to the coworking LinkedIn group, there's links to Barefoot Planter, Townsquare Islington. I'm going to throw in there What If There Were No Freelancers, which was a report by Townsquare, which is packed full of juicy goodness about the freelance economy in the UK. And also there's the Workspace Design Show and European Co-working Day, which we talk about in every podcast. And talking of event planning, get into that now. Wherever you are in the world, be careful out there. It is a jungle. Say goodbye, Chauntelle.
Bye, everyone. Thanks for listening.